kunja vihari. Gopijana vallabha girivardhari. Gopijana vallabha girivardhari. Jashodanandana brajajana ranjana. Jashodanandana brajajana ranjana. Jamuna tira vanachari. Jamuna tira vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja vihari. Jayong Vishnupad Paramhansha Paribrajakacarya Ashtottar Shatu Śrī Srimad Abhay Charanarubindo Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mathura Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shamaveto Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gaurango. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanang Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam tato jaya mudiraye nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, Chapter 25. We are starting a new chapter today. So, this chapter is entitled as the glories of Lord Ananta. I'll just read the summary of this chapter and then I'll go to the first verse of this chapter. In this chapter, Śukadeva Gosvāmī describes Ananta, the source of Lord Śiva. Lord Ananta, whose body is completely spiritual, resides at the root of the planet Patala. He always lives in the core of Lord Shiva's heart, and he helps him destroy the universe. Ananta instructs Lord Shiva how to destroy the cosmos, and thus he is sometimes called tamasi, or one who is in the mode of darkness. He is the original deity of material consciousness, and because he attracts all living entities, he is sometimes known as Saṅkarṣaṇa. The entire material world is situated on the hoods of Lord Saṅkarṣaṇa. From his forehead, he transmits to Lord Shiva the power to destroy this material world. Because Lord Saṅkarṣaṇa is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, many devotees offer him prayers. And in the planetary system of Patala, all the Suras, Asuras, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, and learned sages offer him their respectful obeisances. The Lord talks with them in a sweet voice. His bodily construction is completely spiritual and very, very beautiful. Anyone who hears about him from a proper spiritual master becomes free from all material conceptions of life. The entire material energy is working according to the plans of Anantadeva. Therefore, we should regard him as the root cause of the material creation. There is no end to his strength, and no one can fully describe him, even with countless mouths. Therefore, he is called Ananta, unlimited. Being very merciful towards all living entities, he has exhibited his spiritual body. Śukadeva Gosvāmī describes the glories of Anantadev to Mahārāja Parīkṣit in this way. So, text 1. Also, this verse, this is in a prose form, so I'll read it through. śrī-śuka uvāca tasya mūla-deśe triṁśad-yojana-sahasrāntara āste ya boi kalā bhagavatas tamosi samakkhātānanta iti sattatya draṣṭṛ-dṛśyayoḥ Saṅkarṣaṇa abhimāna-lakṣaṇaṁ jang Saṅkarṣaṇa mitta chakṣate. Saṅkarṣaṇam itta chakṣate. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Śrī Śukadeva Gosvāmī said to Mahārāja Parīkṣit, "My dear king, approximately 240,000 miles beneath the planet Patala lives another incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the expansion of Lord Viṣṇu, known as Lord Ananta or Lord Saṅkarṣaṇa. He is always in the transcendental position, but because he is worshipped by Lord Śiva, the deity of tamo-guṇa or darkness, he is sometimes called tamasi. Lord Ananta is the predominating deity of the material mode of ignorance, as well as the false ego of all conditioned souls. When a conditioned living being thinks, quote, I am the enjoyer in this world is meant to be enjoyed by me, unquote, this conception of life is dictated to him by Saṅkarṣaṇa. Thus, the mundane conditioned soul thinks himself the Supreme Lord. How many are outside? You can come in, make some space. There is some space inside. Just make some room for others to come in. The Matajis can, there is some space there. Come inside. Okay. Okay, please repeat after me. Śrī Śukadeva Gosvāmī said to Mahārāja Parīkṣit, My dear king, approximately 240,000 miles beneath the planet Patala lives another incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the expansion of Lord Viṣṇu, known as Lord Ananta or Lord Saṅkarṣaṇa. He is always in the transcendental position. But because he is worshipped by Lord Śiva, the deity of tamo-guṇa or darkness, he is sometimes called tamasi. Lord Ananta is the predominating deity of the material mode of ignorance, as well as the dominating deity, as well as the false ego of all conditioned souls. When a conditioned living being thinks, I am the enjoyer, and this world is meant to be enjoyed by me, this conception of life is dictated to him by Saṅkarṣaṇa. Thus the mundane conditioned soul thinks himself the Supreme Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is a class of men akin to Mayavadi philosophers who misinterpret the Aham Brahmasmi or So Aham Vedic mantras to mean I am the Supreme Brahman and I am identical with the Lord. This kind of false conception in which one thinks himself to be the supreme enjoyer is a kind of illusion. It is described elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.8, Janas mohayam ahang mamayati. As explained in the above verse, Lord Saṅkarṣaṇa is the predominating deity of this false conception. Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart as Saṅkarṣaṇa, and when a demon thinks himself one with the Supreme Lord, the Lord keeps him in the darkness. Although such a demoniac living entity is only an insignificant part of the Supreme Lord, he forgets his true position and thinks he is the Supreme Lord. Because this forgetfulness is created by Saṅkarṣaṇa, he is sometimes called tamasi. The name tamasi does not indicate that he has a material body. He is always transcendental, but because he is the super soul of Lord Śiva, who must perform tamasi activities, Saṅkarṣaṇa is sometimes called tamasi. Hare Krishna. Om ajnana-timirandhasya jnananjana-shalakaya chakshurunmilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhishtham sthapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayham dadati swapadantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, after describing the 7 lower planetary systems, starting from Atala and ending in Patala. Atal, Bital, Sutal, Mahatal, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal, Patal. So these are the 7 lower planetary systems that have been described in the 24th chapter of the 5th canto. Now in the 25th chapter, we are getting the description of what is below that. There are innumerable universes. The innumerable universes floating in the causal ocean. But we can see that each universe is actually held on the head of Ananta, Shesha. This is how inconceivable the potency of the Lord is. It has been described that an universe is resting on the hood of Ananta Shesha like a mustard seed. To us, the universe may appear to be so large, so big. But compared to the Lord's potency is like a small, insignificant mustard seed. And so we can consider that, like, how is that? Like, we may think that we are so big, our capacity is so vast. But if we consider, like, an ant also thinks that he is so important. That is the condition of the living entities in the material nature. Due to one very unique factor called false ego. False ego, ahankar. And as a result of this ahankar, everyone in this material nature thinks himself to be very, very important. Not only very important, everyone in the material considers himself to be the center of everything. And that is caused by false ego. Now consider an ant is thinking he is so important. But compared to the human beings, what is an ant? So insignificant. So we have to also consider that just as an ant is insignificant, compared to some other creatures, we are also so insignificant. And then ultimately, considering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what is our situation? But this factor, false ego, is making us think that we are so important. Everyone is thinking, I am so important. And false ego making one feel that he is the object of supreme worship. And when one doesn't get the worship, he gets upset. And he complains. I am so important, why aren't you giving me the importance? Why aren't you seeing me as the most important personality? And it has been pointed out here that is due to Saṅkarṣaṇa's influence. He is the deity of ahankar. Saṅkarṣaṇa is the deity of ahankar. And ahankar is the root of ignorance. And it is that ahankar, or the mode of ignorance, that becomes the cause of destruction. As long as we remain in our false concept of life, we become susceptible to be destroyed. So, there are three modes in this material nature. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. So, as we mentioned, that due to the mode of ignorance, we become destroyed. We lose ourselves. And the effect of that losing is in falling asleep. When we fall asleep, do we remember who we are? Sometimes we dream, but the dream is also is in the subtle body. Because the subtle body is active, we are dreaming. Gross body is inactive, sleep. Subtle body is still active, dream. When the subtle body also is not active, that is deep sleep. So the point is that due to mode of ignorance, we enter into forgetfulness. And that is kind of destruction, losing our identity, losing the awareness of our existence. Then there is mode of passion. Due to the mode of passion, we become active. All our actions are performed in the mode of passion. So people in this material nature act in the mode of passion, and then in the evening or at night they fall asleep or enter into mode of ignorance. Then in the morning they wake up and they're again in the mode of passion, active in this material nature in the mode of passion. Then again they fall asleep in mode of ignorance. And the passion also has the influence of mode of ignorance, in the sense of thinking that I am the doer, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. So in this material nature, people generally remain in these two modes. Passion to ignorance, ignorance to passion. It cycles. But the way to get out of this cycle of mode of passion and ignorance is the mode of goodness. When one becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then he begins to realize his actual identity. And he gives up his false ego, gives up the influence of the mode of ignorance, which makes him think that he is the enjoyer, he is the proprietor, he is the controller. So, by giving up this attitude, he develops the true humbleness. He recognizes his real identity, that he is so insignificant. And then, if he is fortunate and comes across a devotee of the Lord, then he gets to know the real knowledge. Then he receives the real knowledge. And that real knowledge takes him out of this mode of goodness even. Takes him out of the material nature and takes him to the spiritual reality. And the spiritual reality is the real goodness. Suddha Sattva. The material nature has Sattva, but it is not Suddha Sattva. Material goodness, the goodness in the material nature is Mishra Sattva. Mixed. It's mixed. There is no pure goodness in the material nature. In the material nature, the goodness also is mixed with passion and ignorance. To some extent. Therefore, the only way that we can become completely free from the influence of passion and ignorance is by being situated in devotional service. That devotional service, otherwise in the material nature, the goodness leads to jnana or knowledge. That knowledge at the most can take him to the point of liberation, mukti. But mukti also is not the actual situation of a living entity. It is not, mukti doesn't take him to his real identity. What is the real identity of a living entity? The real identity of a living entity is Jiver Sarup Hoy. So eternal living entity is an eternal servant of Krishna. And it is only by being engaged in serving the Lord one acquires his actual identity of being a servant of the Lord. That is our real identity. And when one becomes situated in his real identity, then he really transcends, then he literally transcends the material nature and becomes situated in the spiritual goodness, Suddha Sattva. Sattang Vishuddham Bosudeva Sangitam. That is also called Basudev. Basudev is the father of Krishna. And Vasudev also is Vishuddha Sattva, pure goodness. And in the pure goodness, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is systematically giving us all these informations. In the material nature, living entities naturally develop certain tendencies. And the tendency is due to his false ego, due to his conditioning, where he thinks that he is the enjoyer. It has also been pointed out that how it is natural. The simple consideration about that is the living entities, the jivas, are coming from Lord's superior energy. And this material nature is Lord's inferior energy. So although this material nature is Lord's energy, Bohiranga Shakti, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Durattaya. This Mama Maya is Daivi, is divine. Mama Maya, my energy. So although this material nature is Krishna's energy, but it is external, whereas the living entities are coming from Bhinna Prakritir Ashtadha, and then Aparayamitasthannang Prakriting Viddhi Me Param. There is a superior energy of mind, Prakriting Viddhi Me Param, and Jiva Bhutang Mahabaho. The living entities are coming, Jiva Bhutam are coming from that superior energy of the Lord. Jajaidang Dharjate Jagat, they are sustaining this material nature. So the living entity is coming from the superior nature, and material nature is Lord's external energy or inferior nature, apara. Apara means inferior and para means superior. So, living entities are coming from superior energy, material nature is inferior energy. So, when a superior comes across an inferior, what happens? Does he say, I am your humble servant? When a superior individual comes across an inferior or subservient, then he naturally tries to control or exploit. Prakriti sthana karshati, exploiting. The living entities tend to exploit this material nature because it's inferior. So it is therefore, it has been described that it's natural that a living entity will develop this attitude of trying to control this material nature because it's inferior. But that is not his actual position. A living entity is not a controller. Living entity is controlled. Living entity is not the Lord and Master. Living entity is the servant. So when, forgetting that he is the servant, a living entity tries to become the Master or the Lord, then that is false identity, mistaken identity, wrong identity. And that is called ahankar, and Prabhupada translated that as false ego. False ego. Mistaken identity. So when a living entity is situated in his mistaken identity, he tries to control this material nature. And the result is, when one is situated in his mistaken identity, then can he be satisfied? Can he be happy? No. That's why the living entity is in constant distress. He's trying to enjoy by controlling this material nature, but he ends up becoming unhappy, becoming dissatisfied, becoming distressed. So how to transcend that situation? By taking shelter of a devotee of the Lord. Devotee of the Lord, because the devotee of the Lord knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vaishnav, who is a Vaishnav? Who knows the Lord tattvataha, in truth, in reality. He is a devotee. And he provides the informations about the Lord. And coming in contact with him, the living entity, then conditioned soul, then gets to realize that he is actually the servant of the Lord, not the controller. And then he naturally develops an attitude of becoming humble. So that is why the identity of a devotee is humbleness. Trinadopi sunichena. Just as long as one is conditioned by the material nature, he naturally develops a tendency to lord over. Similarly, when one becomes aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he naturally becomes humble. Naturally. Why naturally? Just as I said, when a superior comes in contact with inferior, he naturally wants to exploit. Now consider, when an inferior comes across a superior, then what happens? He naturally becomes subservient to him, surrendered to him. So that is why there is no need for artificially pretending or acting in a certain way. There is no need to be artificial. It's a natural process. Just become aware of the greatness of Krishna. And we may not be able to see the greatness of Krishna, but we get to see the greatness of those who are representing Krishna. And by seeing how great they are, we naturally become subservient to them. We may not be able to become surrendered to Krishna, but we can become surrendered to Krishna's devotees, those who are displaying Krishna's qualities as Krishna's representatives. And then this respect will automatically develop. Just a matter of becoming aware of their greatness. So, the point is that a devotee is naturally humble because he knows Krishna, because he has seen, because he is aware of greatness of Krishna from the scriptures and from the descriptions of him from his devotees. And then we get to see the greatness of his devotees. Like in that way, we all have been very fortunate to see the greatness of one devotee at least. Who is that devotee? Srila Prabhupada. When it comes to appreciating the greatness of a devotee, then we can see that here is a personality who is so great. And we begin to begin to appreciate him. But therefore, it is important that we properly get to know him. Like, who has ever gone alone to a foreign country, also country like America, which is extremely atheistic, which is extremely materialistic, which is extremely expensive, which is extremely impersonal, Nobody there cares for anybody. So Prabhupada goes to a country like that at the age of 70. He went to America when he was 70 years old. And he went there without a single penny. Prabhupada did not have a single penny with him. Will you ever dare to go to some place without any money? Would you like to even go to Bombay without any money? And that also at a very old age, like 70 years old. Even at a young age, you don't dare to go to a place without any money. But Srila Prabhupada goes there. People say, well, Prabhupada went there, Prabhupada had $6 with him. What Prabhupada didn't have a single penny actually. What Prabhupada had is 40 rupees. And that 40 rupees had no value in America. It's just a scrap paper. Because nobody would take that 40 rupees. No bank will take 40 rupees and give Prabhupada equal amount of dollar. Indian currency doesn't have any value even today. Like no bank will take it. The Hawala people may take it. But no bank takes it. Rupees. So just consider 51 years back, Srila Prabhupada went to America in that condition. No money at all. Did Prabhupada make any prior arrangement for some? Like he wrote a letter to somebody. And that person also was living in a remote place, quite a small little town called Butler in Pennsylvania. Even nowadays people don't go there. I never been there. Although to us, Butler is an important place. There are so many such small places in America. So Srila Prabhupada goes there in that condition. And then what did he do? We can go through that through Lilamrita and other such books. But then we see that in 10 years' time, what did Prabhupada do? Prabhupada goes to Paris. And there people became envious that Prabhupada is riding in such a big car. And tell, you are a saintly person, you are a spiritual person, why are you riding in these big cars? Prabhupada said, big car? This is not suitable for me. They should have got a golden car. They should have got a car made of gold for me. Because they are worshipping the spiritual master. So we can see from that position where he goes to America with nothing, he goes to a country like France, Paris, one of the richest cities, and people are so, French people are famous for their luxurious lifestyle. And those people became envious of Srila Prabhupada. And once Prabhupada told me, I am the richest man. Because I have 10,000 people constantly serving me. Who has 10,000 followers? Which company has 10,000 employees serving? And that also they don't serve properly. Only 9 to 5 during the office hours. But these devotees are serving Srila Prabhupada 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they're doing it happily. And Prabhupada, so many times Prabhupada mentioned that I'm not paying them anything. Rather, they're paying me. So this is, these are the things that indicate Srila Prabhupada's greatness. And yet Srila Prabhupada is so humble. So humble. So concerned about everyone. And when somebody gave the credit to Prabhupada for what he achieved, Prabhupada's response is, no, I didn't do anything. My Guru Mahārāja has done everything. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done everything. And they have given me the credit. I haven't done anything. They have done everything. They simply gave me the credit. So that is a Vaishnava. Completely surrendered to the Lord and his spiritual master, and acting simply as an instrument in their hands. And with his spiritual master also, Prabhupada had only 3 occasions. 3 times only he met his spiritual master. Not that he had a very long association with him. But what happened? In those 3 meetings, or due to coming in contact with him, he accepted him in his heart as his life and soul. When some devotees, meaning Prabhupada's, not ISKCON devotees, some of Prabhupada's God brothers, complain, he drove past his Guru Maharaja's Samadhi and didn't even stop there to show his respect. When Prabhupada got to know that, when somebody told Prabhupada, Prabhupada's response was, do they think that I am ever separated from my spiritual master even for a moment? My spiritual master is always with me. Meaning, his spiritual master was always in his heart, and he was never ever separated from him. So that is the real attachment. So in this way, when we just get to know about Srila Prabhupada, we get to see what a great personality he was. And we naturally become surrendered to him. So, we are very fortunate that somehow or other we have come across Srila Prabhupada's teachings, and as a result of that, we have become aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, if we consider none of us had any understanding about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If at all we had something, it was all misconceptions, not real understanding. But coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada and his teachings, we have got to know the identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who is Krishna? And what is our relationship with him? And we started to act on that relationship. That is, becoming a servant of Krishna, trying to serve him with all sincerity. And as a result of that, we can see that at least our heart has become free from the duality of this material nature, the anxiety of being in constant fear. We have found a shelter upon whom we can have complete confidence that he will take care of us in all respects. And the result is total freedom from anxiety. Bigata kuntha iti vaikuntha. This is a Vaikuntha situation, no more anxiety. The more we depend upon Krishna, the more our heart becomes free from anxiety and fear. Whereas in the material nature, everyone is living in constant fear. Those who are acting on the platform of material conditioning, being influenced by that mode of ignorance and passion, they're in constant fear. Whereas devotees are free from anxiety. Just like a child, when he is holding onto his father's hand, can he possibly have any anxiety? So what to speak of when we hold on to the hands of our Supreme Father, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Naturally, we become free from all anxiety. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Does anybody have any question? Yes.
Thank you very much for this wonderful class. Sometimes we see devotees have more attachment for Srila Prabhupada than the spiritual master, whereas other times we see devotees have more attachment for their brother and spiritual master than Srila Prabhupada. So like both these conditions okay or like?
Yeah. The question is, sometimes we see that some devotees are more attached to Srila Prabhupada, and sometimes we see that some devotees are more attached to the spiritual master. So how should we look at it? Actually, when you get the right understanding, then you develop the attachment to both. Like it is not a one or other. We can extend it also to Krishna. Sometimes we see devotees are more attached to Prabhupada than Krishna, or sometimes some are more attached to Prabhupada, more attached to Krishna than Srila Prabhupada. So the right understanding is that we can't separate. We are attached to Srila Prabhupada because of Krishna. Similarly, we are attached to Krishna because of Srila Prabhupada. So it's not either or. But in that respect, I can tell you one thing. Once I told Srila Prabhupada, I don't know Krishna, but I know you. So all the love and respect that I feel it for you. Prabhupada said, that's right. Because when we become attached to Srila Prabhupada, who do we get attached to? Who does Prabhupada take us to? So by being attached to Srila Prabhupada, we become attached to Krishna. Similarly, when we become attached to Srila Prabhupada's representative, through him we get, if he is properly situated, then through him we get Srila Prabhupada. And when we, and what does a bona fide spiritual master say? Does he say that you worship me and not Srila Prabhupada? Rather he says that I am taking whatever worship is there on behalf of Srila Prabhupada and offering it to Srila Prabhupada. That is the meaning of being a transparent via medium. It is not one and not the other. Those who say, well, only Prabhupada should be worshipped and nobody else, they are in total mistake. Prabhupada himself said, his representative should be worshipped. And anyway, this material nature is the world of envy. Therefore, we can't tolerate that anybody is being worshipped. Those who are non-devotees, they were envious that we are worshipping Srila Prabhupada in this way. As I mentioned, in France. Not only in France, it happened in America also. And why they are offering obeisances to you? They don't understand why they are offering obeisance to him. So our business is to become a transparent via medium. It shouldn't stop. The gurus are receiving worship, but they are not thinking that it is for them. Transparent via medium means through them it's going to the next object of worship. Main point is everybody should become properly situated. There are individuals, those who say so-called gurus, worship me and they never give Krishna. They are demons. The identity of a demon is that he accepts what is meant for Krishna for himself. So those who are not offering Krishna is not properly situated. Similarly, those who are not giving Prabhupada, they are also not properly situated.
गुरु महाराज जैसे कि अभी आपने कहा कि बच्चा अगर पिता के शरण में आता है तो उनको कोई चिंता की बात नहीं, और 2 दिन पहले अपनी क्लास में कहा था कि समय समय पर हमको भगवान की शरण लेना चाहिए। तो मैं भगवान से प्रार्थना करती हूँ कि राधा मदन से कि ये तीनों बच्चे आपके और इनका भविष्य आपको ही देखना है, क्योंकि मुझे भी बच्चों के बारे में चिंता बहुत रहती है। बाहर का जो माहौल देखकर, खासतौर पर लड़कियों के लिए मैं तो देख रही हूँ, प्रार्थना तो मैं अच्छे से कर रही हूँ भगवान को, खुद ही मुझे चिंता बहुत रहती है लड़कियों के बारे में, ये कई बात सही मार्ग पर रहे हमेशा।
मैं तुम्हारे बच्चे को पूछूं? What will be your response? Will you cause anxiety to your mother? Sure. So, वो तो वचन दे रही है। और तुम्हारा जो चिंता जो है वो भी सही है, क्योंकि आजकल का वातावरण बहुत खराब है। और ये अच्छा है कि जल्दी जल्दी शादी दे दो, तो जिम्मेदारी तुम्हारा नहीं रहेगा। ओके, ऑलराइट, ओके, गुड गर्ल। Thank you. Hare Krishna.
You have seen, you have a darshan of Śrī Prabhupada, and I think all of us have not have darshan of Prabhupada, but we are having visualization of Prabhupada's representative. By this physical body, how we can visualize the Lord Krishna?
How can you visualize Lord Krishna? There are two you can see in various ways. One way of seeing is with the eyes. That is the way we generally see. Another way of seeing is through ears. Right? You hear, and when you hear, do you see? And another way of seeing is by reading the scriptures. So although we may not see with our eyes, but we can see by hearing. We can see by reading the scriptures, which is also non-different from hearing, but hearing from proper source. So that's why hearing is so important. Because although we may not see with our eyes, but this is one sense, one faculty that can enable us to see. Right?
My second question, that we are in the draṣṭṛ-dṛśyayoḥ, means we are in directly contact with the material world, infinite energy. How we will elevate?
कल शाम को आप क्लास में थे ना? हाँ, मैं क्या बताया था?
It's very difficult to practice.
No, I am just repeating that what does a devotee do? Because we naturally see, the senses naturally go towards the object of the senses. I think that was your question, yeah? The senses are naturally going towards the objects of the senses. And that is leading to one after another. Dhayate vishayan pungsha, shangaste shupajayate, shangat sangjayate kama, kamat krodha vijayate, krodhat bhavati sanmoha, sanmohat smriti vibhrama, smriti bhrangshat buddhinasha, buddhinashat pranashyati. Just dhayate vishayan pungsha pranashyati. Right? So how can we avoid that? Because senses will run towards the object of the senses. Yogis try to stop the senses from going to the object of the senses. But that's a very, very difficult process. Even the yogis, hardly anyone becomes successful in doing that. But what does devotee do? Senses are running towards the object of the senses. And what is immediately thinking? How can I use it in Krishna's service? Right? And he then uses his intelligence. What can be used in Krishna's service? What cannot be used in Krishna's service? He makes the discrimination. That's the business of intelligence. To discriminate. This can be used in Krishna's service in this way. And this cannot be engaged in Krishna's service at all. So he accepts whatever is possible to be engaged in Krishna's service. And this is how, although his senses are running towards the objects of the senses, but that is not leading to material entanglement which leads to destruction, but it is taking him to the spiritual reality. Okay, so I'll stop now. It seems